Hello, family. Okay, so as promised, I'm going to talk about a couple of things that I spoke about in that video earlier today. That video was titled, "The Problem with Christianity is Its Believers." In that video, I talked about how, Christianity, from a tradition standpoint, does not line up with religious or biblical literature when it comes to how you celebrate these traditions. So I said I'd talk about that, and so I'm going to talk about that now. I titled this message here, "How a Lie Becomes Believed, Not Truth." The one thing you have to understand about truth is no matter what, truth will always be truth, whether nobody believes it or everybody believes it. Okay, that's not the same when it comes for a belief. No matter how many people believe in something, it does not make it true. No matter how long you tell a lie, it will never be true. It may be believed, but not true. Okay, so I'm going to start this off and I'm going to ask you a question. If a complete stranger came up to you one day and told you about a magical place that you go to when you died, would you believe it? Would you believe them if they told you that this God really if they told you they really loved you and they died for you? Okay, now mind you, let's say you're 30 years old. Okay, you've never heard anything about Jesus. You've never heard anything about heaven, hell, being a sinner, being saved, any of that. And this complete stranger comes up to you with a pamphlet and with sincerity tells you that this place exists. Would you believe it? My guess is that you would not, had you not heard such a thing. Okay, that would disagree with everything that you had already currently understood. If you've never heard of some type of mystical character or being saving souls or anything like that, that would be so foreign to you, you probably wouldn't accept it. Okay, so but let's just continue on. Let's say that you're not 30. Let's say you're 5 years old and your mother and father tells you, okay, your parents, everything that you know and love, okay, are your parents. Everything that you need, everything that you receive, you get from them. Would you believe it then? You're not 30, okay, you're 5. You don't even have the ability to rationalize the things you're being told. Would you believe it then? And not only that, not only your parents telling you, what if they took you to a place where other people went week after week that also believed in this thing? Your family and friends, your school, kids from your school go to these big buildings every week that's built just for worship to this belief. Would you believe it then? Not only that, what if the whole community seems to do it and the whole world around you that you know of, especially as a 5-year-old, was celebrating or worshiping this belief through their traditions? Okay, so what if it was through their traditions? I want to go back a little bit so we can see here, because I'm going to stop there for a second. What if it's through their traditions, okay? And through these traditions, you get joy, laughter, you're getting gifts. Things are exciting around this time, okay? Things seem to be magical around this time. Everybody's happy. Would you then believe this story is true? You're 5. I imagine that your answer would probably be yes. You wouldn't have a choice but to believe it, okay? So let's talk about some things. Through these traditions, okay, that has seemingly led us astray or outside of what you call or what we call the Word of God, the Bible, okay? So first, I'm going to start off by showing you that these people are mentioned in the Bible. You're going to have it talk about Nimrod. Right here it talks about Nimrod, who became a warrior on earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord, is what it actually says there. Some of it got cut off. That's why it was said, Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. So Nimrod was a great, great hunter. Nimrod goes on to build many cities such as Cush, not Tarshish, but Nineveh, Babel. Okay, some places call it Babylon, but we all know about the Tower of Babel and how it was destroyed. It was destroyed for false god worship. But anyway, Nimrod had a wife. Her name was Semiramis. Okay, Semiramis, the wife of Nimrod, she will go on later to be called Ashtaroth or Ashtoreth, Ishtar or Easter. Okay, so her name would also be changed. Nimrod's name will go on to be Baal once they die. So once these kings die, they get deified and they get a different name. And a lot of times, or how they teach it is that they give this name to the new sun god after December 25th. So once that sun dies and it rises again on December 25th, it gives birth to a new sun god, and whoever that king was that died that name would get changed, and that would be representation of him. Okay, so Baal is the sun god of Nimrod. Okay, the actual version of the sun, which is just representation. Okay, so they also had another son, okay, but they didn't have him until after Nimrod died. Nimrod dies, and the legend says that Ashtaroth, or Semiramis, gets pregnant by the rays of the sun, the rays of Baal. Okay, so a miraculous pregnancy, really similar to that birth of Jesus. Okay, no sexual contact, and now she's pregnant. Okay, so now she has this child, and his name becomes Tammuz. His name goes on to become Cupid. And Tammuz is also a mighty hunter, okay? So he always has that bow and arrow. And again, his name goes on to be called Cupid. And I know a lot of you already get where I'm going with that. But we got here, now we understand who this family is. Let's move on here. So this right here is a picture of Nimrod here with the head of a man, the body of a bull. If this goes on down, you can see it has a cloven hoof to represent he's a bull. And this is where you get Apis or Serapis. So we all know that Egypt they worshipped Apis, or they worshipped calves or bulls. Okay, this is why the Israelites, when they were rescued from Egypt, built a golden calf to worship how they were used to worshiping. Okay, they didn't know how God wanted to be worshipped. They only knew how Egyptians worshipped, supposedly. So when they were rescued from Egypt, so just imagine, living somewhere for your whole entire life, been enslaved somewhere your whole life. You don't know any way else to worship. It'd be the same if somebody came right now and took you from this land, okay, and then forced you to worship their gods. You would have no clue what they're expecting of you. It's either worship their gods or die. Okay, so you wouldn't know exactly what to do either. So in an attempt to worship God, they used what they knew, and this is what made God so angry. But he was angry because they were worshiping a bull. This right here is Baal, or Nimrod. As you can see, Nimrod is born December the 25th as every other sun god, and he's celebrated on Christmas Day as every other sun god. So here's the wife of Nimrod, and here's the names. Pause it here for a second. You've got Cupid here. Let's see, notice you got Mercury, Pluto, Neptune, Jupiter, Saturn, all the planets. Then you've got over here in Greek, Dionysus. Then you've got Pluto, Poseidon, all these people, Hermes, all come from that person, that one name. Then you've got Woden, which is Thor's daddy, or Odin, which is Thor's father on the cartoon, which is also a Greek god. Woden is actually where you get Wednesday from. That's where we get our day of the week. Even our days of the week are Greek and pagan. So you got Osiris, then you got Tammuz, and these are all names of Baal. Then you have Baal here. So let's go on. So let me just stop here for a second really quickly. So you see this depiction holding many different babies, and it's all the same look pretty much, but it's just different characters here, giving different names to the same person. And this is why Christianity is often, if I can say, mistaken for sun god worship, or the belief of Christians is that their belief is mistaken for sun god worship. They don't think it is. But this just shows the many depictions of that image with different names. Okay, so whether you want to call that, Mary, Jesus, or Semiramis and Tammuz, that's really on you. But you see the sun discs, I always see the sun behind the head. This is representation of a sun god. So you get that understanding. So next we're going to talk about what she does is she ends up marrying her own son. Okay, so she marries her own son on what we call Valentine's Day, and that's why we celebrate that day. Here's another depiction of them actually giving their babies to this, or sacrificing their babies to this actual deity, which is Apis. And we'll talk about sacrificing again here shortly. I just saw this and thought you'd see this actual slide. Here's another picture of them giving their children to Apis the bull, and another picture of them giving their children to Apis the bull. So here's the Babylonian legend, okay? Semiramis dies. When Semiramis dies, he supposedly goes to heaven, and Baal, who is God at the time, supposedly, is not ready for Semiramis. So the Babylonian legend has it that he cast Semiramis back down to earth in a giant egg. Okay, this egg landed in the Euphrates River, and I know you're probably laughing, but look this stuff up and you'll see it. Okay, that egg went down to the Euphrates River, and her first miracle was to turn a bird into an egg-laying rabbit. Okay, now many different writings you see will say that what they would do is they would impregnate women on Easter. Okay, a year later those babies would be around 3 months old. Okay, and they would sacrifice these babies and dye eggs in their blood. Now the reason they worshipped or looked or held in high regard the rabbit and the eggs was because the rabbit, it represents for fertility. Also the egg represents fertility. They even believed once that the earth was born out of an egg. So they really put a lot of focus on the egg and the rabbit. And if you see here, in most places, the universal color for eggs is red everywhere. Even in the White House, that egg in the White House is a red egg. And so here are more red eggs. Just thought I'd put it up here so you can get a picture of what I was saying. But again, I just put another picture here of Tammuz being a hunter. That slide kind of got off a little bit, but here's another one. This picture right here is actually Semiramis holding a rabbit. This is showing that this right here is an actual carving or stone from way back then, okay? Showing you some of the things that they worshiped. Her name is pronounced Easter, okay? So think about this. The Babylonian legend says that she was cast back down to earth in the Euphrates, and landed in the Euphrates River, and at sunrise, her first miracle was to turn a bird into an egg-laying rabbit. On Easter Sunday, you still say Easter sunrise service. Why do you say that? Did you know that the word Easter is not even in your Bible, unless it's been recently modified? Okay, you may have some wild book that probably says Easter in it, but I'm going to tell you, most of you will not have that word Easter even in your Bible. Okay, this holiday was actually called Passover. Okay, this was a holiday that was given to the Israelites by God himself. Okay, but somehow when it comes to the day of Passover, which is supposed to be the day that Jesus died and rose, instead of you seeing tombs, instead of you walking into a store and you see like tombs or anything like that, you don't see anything like that. All you see is Easter rabbits. All you see is Easter eggs. You see what I'm saying? So all of these holidays are geared to worship pagan gods, and you adopt them as your own. So my main question to you is this. You say that what you believe in is your own personal relationship with God, that the reason you believe in Jesus is based on your soul experience and understanding. If that is true, why does your holiday to the celebration of your God that you have a personal relationship with, that's not influenced by anybody around you, why is your celebrations exactly like everyone around you? Wouldn't your celebrations be unique to the very Bible that you read if you truly believed in it outside of what anybody else believed? Now, I can't sit here and tell you that you do, that you only believe what you believe because everybody else believes it, but you only celebrate what you celebrate because everybody else celebrates it. And we just talked about what it could do for you to see a belief solidified every single year, okay, what appears to be worship to it, okay? But the funny thing is, when you actually read the Bible, you find that those traditions are not worship to that particular deity at all. Those same exact traditions were worship to another deity, okay? And the God that you say you believe in has a real problem with it. You would think that at some point, Christians would say, you know what, let's do this thing correctly, because you're chasing people away from your very religion. People are getting to the point to where they don't even believe in it anymore because of the way you guys celebrate it, okay? So like I said before, you already have to have everyone take you at your word with no evidence, believing this thing to be truth, even though there's no evidence. At least celebrate it right. You see what I'm saying? So I'm gonna end it right there. The next time I'm gonna come back, we're gonna talk about Christmas and some other of those holidays. I wanted y'all to see this, go research into it, and then we'll see what we have coming from there. All right, holla.